let's talk about the sweaters, okay? Let's start with you because I love it. I love it.
David.
I love that sweater.
I decided to up my sweater game for Chamath. This is Tom Ford.
Love it. It's beautiful.
Tom Ford. The buttons are made out of endangered rhino horn.
We just lost a third of the audience.
So my sweater is a very light Italian cashmere made by a company called Doriani Cashmere. This
I
right
thought we
here
weren't
is
doing plugs for our startups.
This is how we're monetizing the All In Pod.
There we go. Dorian Cashmere just got a free.
Now this right here is a little young calf leather, very soft, very soft. And the buttons, like David's, are made from shark fin.
And for those of you at home who would like to spend $150 and stay warm, may I recommend the Marine Layer? You can find it on Union Street Jacket.
I mean, how
you can also find that jacket on Church Street.
How tilted is Sweater Karen listening to this? Sweater Karen, if you're listening,
Sweater Karen.
I mean, you must
never reveal. Sweater Karen got back to me and she was like, "Oh my God, he's so tilted."
I think I know who she is.
Sweater Karen can kiss my brown ass.
Oh, so Jade comes home last night. I kid you not. She's like, I don't like you in the t-shirts. I got you some sweaters, and because we're going to the mountains for the holiday, and I was like, did you watch the podcast about the sweater? She's like, no, I don't listen to your podcast. I was like, okay, fair enough. And I'm like, I'm looking at these things. They're all in these boxes, and she's got this bunch of sweaters. I started opening. I was like, what did you spend on this? She said $3,000. I was like, I'm not comfortable spending $3,000 on a sweater.
That's half a sweater.
Let alone 8 of them. And she goes, no, it's $3,000 for all 8.
Yeah, Chamath is like, is that a sleeve?
That's
it's like it's $3,000 for all 8 sweaters.
4 buttons and a waistband?
That might be a vest for Chamath.
I think that's the box the sweater came in was $3,000. So I got my 3/4 zip, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. I feel pretty sexy in it, I'll be honest.
Let your winners ride.
Rain Man David Sachs.
We open source it to the fans, and they've just gone crazy with it.
Love you, besties. Queen of Quinoa. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the All In Podcast. Yes, breaking into the top 50 podcasts week after week because of you, the amazing audience, telling your friends about the pod.
It's been 2 weeks, so it's week and week.
All right. That's what I said. Week after week.
A week and a week.
After week.
A week and a week.
For 2 weeks, hitting the top 40 podcast episodes in the world, thanks to the fans. With me, of course, the dictator himself in a amazing sweater.
Light cashmere gilet.
The Sultan of Science. I found out from his mom. She much prefers the Sultan of Science to Queen of Quinoa, so that's what we're going with going forward. David Freeberg, who had a great party up in Beep. And I really enjoyed going. And Sachs, who didn't go to Beep's party or to Friedberg's party. He stayed home and played chess on his iPhone. The Rain Man himself, David Sachs. Welcome to the pod, everybody.
Okay, you want my 2 New York stories?
My one true bestie, Jason Calacanis.
It's true.
No, that's not true. I really wanted to come, but Nat's breastfeeding, and so I couldn't come.
The helipad was shut down. Chamath couldn't land.
You were getting breastfed?
Jeez. Was there a Curb Your Enthusiasm? Oh, no, it was this great show called Afterlife from Ricky Gervais. There's literally a scene in it where a woman, they work for a local newspaper that's going out of business, and they're going to do local stories. And the big story in town is a woman is making pudding, incredibly delicious pudding, and it's from her breast milk. And they go and cover the story. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. It's a pretty amazing story.
Do you want to know my 2 New York stories or not?
Yeah, let's hear it. What, you said you had a helicopter story? What's that?
Helicopter story.
Helicopter's also a New York story. So
okay.
I went to Deepdale to play golf with a certain well-known individual, and we chop her back.
A finance individual?
Politics.
Media?
Well-known political individual.
Political. Okay.
As long as it's not a rock and roller, you do not want to step foot in a helicopter with a rock and roll star.
No, but here's my story, which is why I totally freaked out about helicopters, and I can't. This was 8 years ago. We played Deepdale, which is just outside New York. Get in the chopper lands in the middle of the thing. I was like, okay, that's fine, and we're going, and I'm already feeling kind of skittish. I don't like helicopters. Get to the East Side Heliport, and the East Side Heliport is basically right by the East River. And so the helicopter descends, and one of the skis doesn't actually land on the fucking thing. And so it does a little tilty poops, and then the guy comes back up, and then he lands. Honestly, like have never been more scared in my life.
All right, that's it.
And I was like, that's it. Never again. I don't want
any besties. It's a bestie ban for life. We're making a pact here. Nobody in fucking helicopters.
It's crazy. So that's my New York story. Last New York story was I was there 2 days ago, or for the last couple of days.
For Santa
in the middle of this Omicron breakout. By the way, had a beautiful dinner after the game. Draymond, Kevin Durant, me, bunch of friends.
Did you go to the game?
No, we went to the private room at Carbone. It was so brutal, though. I have to tell you, I feel so disgusting with myself. I had a work dinner, and I have sushi at the work dinner. And then, Dre texts after the game. He's like, "Hey, we're all having dinner at Carbone." I said, "Okay, I'll head through." I went to the hotel. I called Nat and I said, "I'm brushing my teeth." And she said, "But you're going out." And I said, "Yes, but if I brush my teeth, I'm not going to eat a second dinner. And I thought, and then, but I made the key mistake. But I didn't floss. So I was unflossed, but I brushed my teeth.
Okay.
I show up and fucking I lose it. And wine and dessert and bread and pasta.
Vodka.
It was really brutal. And by 3 a.m., I stumble home. And I felt so bad because I had to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. No, my first meeting was at 7:45.
Well, congratulations to Steph Curry, by the way.
Incredible, no?
He's the greatest shooter of all time.
He's a virtuoso.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was my New York story. Yeah. I gained,
Here's my
1 kilo. I gained 1 kilo. 2.2 pounds I gained in 2 days.
Here's my Carbone story. Hardest reservation to get in New York. Sachs is like, "Jake, I'll need help, need a favor. What's the best place in New York to do a closing dinner?" I'm like, "I got you. I got my guy. Get my guy on the horn." My guy's like, "Okay, I got you." Carbone, Friday fucking night, 8 o'clock, hardest ticket in New York. You know what Sachs does? Goes dark. Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. He's like, "Yeah, we're not going to make it." I'm like,
oh my God.
My friend is like, "Jake, Al, your guy burned the Carbone res?"
That was the Bird IPO. I was going to take the founder out to dinner that night at Carbone, and then it turned into the big group dinner with 30 people. So it moved over to.
Well, Brooklyn. By the way, the private room, which is not in the restaurant, but it's a little bit on the side. It only fits 15, 20 people. Mm. So it's not like you and that's then it's really tight.
Let me ask you a question. What was Steph's? How did Steph feel?
No, Steph wasn't there. Draymond, Kevin, me, Benny Fowler, Morrell, but just a bunch of our friends.
You say Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
Kevin Durant still friendly with
he's honestly Draymond. He's such a great guy.
I love Kevin Durant.
He is really, really, really a great
Wish
guy.
He had stayed.
Super sensitive, cool.
He's friends again with
he was always
all good.
He was always.
I think that when they had their blow up, it was more like their brothers, and it was just a little bit
like when you started talking like Joe Pesci. Did Kevin Durant ever start talking like Joe Pesci?
Hey, inside baseball. All right, it was an eventful week on Twitter. We're only 1 week into the new Twitter CEO's reign. Jack is gone, and already David Sachs has been flagged. It's a guy. It can't be a coincidence that you were talking about them flagging accounts at the end of free speech. And then pull it up on the screen, everybody. Investors should be spending their time finding good investments, not endlessly debating interest rates, inflation, and tax policy. But that's the uncertainty Washington has created. It's a great tweet. I like that tweet, actually. And then the flag. The conversation from Sachs has been flagged. Some conversations can get heavy. Don't forget the human behind the screen.
Do you think that that's machine learned, or do you think that that's an editor that goes in there and actually just manually flags?
Machine learned.
No, I think it's a great question.
But what is in there that actually triggers?
The word debating. Washington.
Interest rates, tax policy, Washington.
I'm not sure that you could build.
Or maybe it's the ratio.
I don't know how you would build a function that would weight this in a way where this could get flagged of all the things you could say with those words. This is so benign.
Well, I think it's the kind of, it seems to be this thing's trying to ward off bullying attacks on Sachs, which I don't think Sachs needs to be too worried about.
Oh, right, because they're telling this to people who would reply.
You're saying it's there to protect me.
It's to protect you. It's one of those things where they're like trying to get people to not insult you in the comments.
We're talking about that.
Maybe you get a lot. Do you get a lot of insults and comments on your tweets?
Oh, undoubtedly. But
so it could just be a blanket.
This tweet's comments section was pretty benign.
Oh, right. It may not be about the tweet. It might be about the replies.
No,
so it might be that
this wasn't that hot. This wasn't that hot.
Huh.
I think Chamath might be onto something. Michelle Tandler got the same label around the same day for a tweet that seemed totally innocuous too. So what I wonder about is this label to protect us, or is it sort of a passive aggressive way for snowflakes at Twitter to like label people they don't like and sort of suggest they're vaguely disreputable?
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that at all.
You think it's a left-wing conspiracy? It's the libs going after the right Sachs. You're paranoid.
I haven't seen any liberals I haven't seen any left-wing people getting labeled this way.
There seems to be a blanket attempt at trying to kind of mute the tone a little bit across the debating that happens and the comments that come across in the replies. And I think they're just trying to like get everyone to tone it down a bit.
I think it's read the story before you tweet it.
It'd be really interesting to know whether this was algorithmic or it was editorial. Because I think if it's editorial, it does actually, I don't think it's as extreme as what David just said, but it skews more in the realm of like people with an axe to grind can flag one thing over another or not, right? But if it's algorithmic, I think that algorithm probably just needs a lot of tweaking because it's not
well, anyway, this...
Doesn't it say that there's a person behind the tweet? It's like trying to get people to not say...
There's nothing wrong with the warning. The warning is charming. The warning's charming. Be nice to each other.
It's trying to get you to be nice to each other.
It's ridiculous.
It's like your mom inserting herself and being like, now remember.
It's there to suggest that there might be something wrong with the content that's being posted.
Well, in
other words, the content is so triggering that, it needs warning labels.
Do you guys think that paternalism has a role on social networks to try and mollify the kind of discourse being too acrimonious?
I think we need some of the transparency that Jack Dorsey repeatedly promised at all the congressional hearings. Remember when he got hauled up there, he promised that they would give more transparency about the way that their algorithms worked. Where is that? And it hasn't been delivered up. They promised it. Now Jack Dorsey's skipped out of town and there's a new guy in charge. Well, we need to know how these algorithms work because they are pressing their thumb on the scale, of debate in the marketplace of ideas by suggesting that some ideas are sketchier than others.
They should just put here, this was algorithmically done based on, they should explain it. Or there should be a little question mark. You hover the question mark. Based on the words in the thread, it feels like things are getting heated here. We did this with an algorithm. Or users reported this as a heated thread. So we put this here. Or a human
we decided.
did it.
No, we decided.
We decided, yeah.
But you want it to be an open marketplace of ideas. But the fact is, it's Twitter's marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
And Facebook's is Facebook's marketplace of ideas. And at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to get away from any of these centralized social networks having anything but some degree of moderation to play a role in
a related thing, they didn't just target Sachs. Also, Chamath, you didn't see this, but they flagged one of your tweets just this afternoon. Pull it up. As you can see here, it's a slightly different one. It says, layers are for players. This conversation will drift to $5,000 sweaters. So a big warning for Chamath to just, and for the people replying, be careful. This
that must have been human,
that's
human initiated
for sure. And this one came in for Prof G. Another one came in for Prof G. So, and in this case, I think they're actually trying to think about the public good. This guy is full of shit. He thought JCPenney would beat Amazon.
How many hours of masterclass Adobe Photoshop did you take to get this little joke?
I didn't make these. My meme team did. I'm convinced that there's two ways to raise your next fund in Silicon Valley. One, have one of the top 50 podcasts in the world, or two, have a strong meme game. And I'm going for both. Sachs now has a warning on his. And this one, they put it on your profile page. Sachs, read
this was crazy. Warning, this person has interesting things to say. If you're too interesting, you get labeled now. It's really crazy. I saw Jake Al having too much fun with this, and I'm like, I gotta get in on this act.
You're like, I need a meme team.
Yeah, exactly.
If anybody out there, I don't care if I need a comedian. I'm willing to pay on a pay per meme, a pay per viral, whatever it takes. Okay. In a related story, Democrats want racial equity audits at tech companies, according to the Washington Free Beacon. Which Sachs, correct me if I'm wrong, that's some sort of wacky right-wing publication.
Never heard of it.
Okay. Washington Free Beacon. If instituted auditors would have veto power over every product or initiative, that's not an exaggeration, is what the story says. One proposal from House Democrats would fine companies $20,000 a day for not completing biennial independent racial equity audits. A left-wing nonprofit called Color of Change is pushing for these audits. Last week, their president called for independent auditors to vet new products from tech companies before they're released in front of Congress. 2018, Color of Change successfully pushed Facebook into completing an audit. They called for more restrictions on Trump's posts. Color of Change itself pushed for Trump to be permanently banned from the platform.
Just so you know, this is exactly the rough version of what happened to Microsoft in their DOJ settlement. Their antitrust settlement was effectively an oversight where lawyers at the DOJ were the product managers and had not effectively veto right, but you had to approve product features before you could push them for 10 years. You know, this is essentially what caused Ballmer's reign to be so, you know, ignominious. It's like he couldn't do anything because like you had a plan to do something and you'd have to go to these random folks who didn't really have the context to make a decision one way or the other on features. So, I mean, the idea that they would do this is it's pretty crazy.
I need a point of clarification here. I've heard the term racial audits or racial equity audits. My understanding of those were to understand the composure of the company in terms of, you know, the diversity in the company. But this is something different. This is in the product to make sure the product isn't racist. Can products be racist? What's an example of a product being racist? I don't understand what they would find.
Let me unpack this for you.
Please.
Okay. What they are basically saying is that these big companies, and for example, they've called on Google to conduct one of these audits. They want all these big companies to conduct these audits. These so-called auditors are actually political consultants who are members of the Democratic Party, who are friends of the senators who are pushing for this. They're political activists.
Oh, it's a grift.
And it's partly a grift, but it's more than that because, you know, when you conduct an audit, let's just take this word audit for a second. Okay. You bring in a big 5 accounting firm and they will check your numbers according to generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, and make sure that the numbers are what you purported them to be. That is the purpose of an audit. And if the auditor ever says that you've done anything wrong, like you have to fix it, there's no choice. Or you can appeal to some other auditor and have them redo the work, okay, according to these generally accepted principles. With an equity audit, what exactly are the principles that are being enforced or checked here? There is no generally accepted list of equity principles that must be enforced in these companies. Basically, you have to do whatever this political activist tells you to do. I mean, it's essentially like bringing in a party commissar to now take over the company, or at least be inside the company telling the executives and officers of the company what to do. It's something that, frankly, the CCP would do.
It does feel a little like, Stasi-like. Didn't we have all of the companies on their own, from Twitter to Google to Facebook, release their own diversity stats years ago?
I think this is about more than diversity. It's about equity. It's about equity. So
let's explain the difference in what that means. This is somehow how the companies run, like the day-to-day life of the employees there, not just the composure and the breakdown of the employees?
Look, equity means anything that progressives say it means. We've seen on this program before how equity has jumped the shark. There's now, there's a provision in the infrastructure bill for tree equity. So, I mean, really any disparity that occurs that progressives don't like can now be called a violation of equity. And this gives them the authorization to come in there and start giving orders.
It's very weird that I don't understand how the product then review gets stopped. Is that meant to throttle you from releasing product as a punitive?
Let me give you an example. So recently, you know, I wrote a piece called the no buy list, where you had companies like PayPal and some of these other financial firms were starting to deny service to customers, to users, based on their political affiliations, and not just like people who are in, you know, well-known hate groups that like everybody sort of, you know, eschews and wants to stay away from. But these are people with relatively down the middle conservative groups, and they were being denied service by, you know, fintech firms. So now I'm not saying that this is what this means, but if this equity auditor tells you, well, look, I don't think it's equitable to allow these conservative groups to, you know, be a user of your product. Well, what's the company going to do? They're going to have to listen to that. And that is a plausible scenario given that it's already occurred.
We've said this so many times on the pod, but I just want to say it again because I guess a lot of folks are new and listening. whenever you hear equity used by a politician, it usually means there's a power grab involved.
Yeah.
Because if you really want things to be fair, you want things to be equal. Right?
Meritocracy.
You want equality. But whenever you start throwing the word equity around and say, we want racial equity, it's a bunch of, a small number of people who, basically have and live by what's often called luxury beliefs, who want to judge other people, who want to be morally absolutist, and then who want to basically exercise a power grab. And we have to push back on that stuff because there's just a slippery slope.
Well, this also seems like overbearing red tape for companies. I mean, if the company has no problems, no complaints against it, releases their diversity numbers, like what is the point of going in there and auditing them?
Let's use an example that builds on what David said. Let's take Square. Okay, one of the most incredible things that Square did was in a hackathon, essentially, build a Cash App.
Yeah.
And one of the most incredible things that happened in the Cash App was that it really started to blow up in urban communities. Okay. Yep. And it starts to normalize banking, opening up bank accounts, having more savings, understanding, an on-ramp into crypto. Cash App has probably done more to get Black and brown people into crypto and to save money and to understand their cash than almost anybody else as like a
100%.
Almost explicit strategy. And so is somebody supposed to go in there and just, arbitrarily judge whether there's too many white people that work at Square or not enough Black people? And so XYZ thing has to change, or such and such a feature doesn't actually speak to folks, so you can't do it. It's insanity. It's like,
well, also to your point, Sachs, is what do these people know? Like, what is their qualification and what's the goal?
Right. And to build on Jamal's point, if these senators, so I think Cory Booker was the one who proposed this, if these senators want those specific policies implemented in the Fortune 500, let them pass a bill to do it and let all of our elected representatives vote on that bill. Mm-hmm. And then we can see if it's popular enough to pass and whether it passes constitutional muster. They won't do that because these bills, if they were directly concretized in the form of proposals, would be very unpopular. So instead what they do is tell you, well, we're not going to do this directly. We're going to put pressure on these big companies to hire one of our political friends, again, this like commissar-like person, and empower them to tell these companies what to do. So it's really kind of insidious what they're doing. And they're kind of covering it all up with these nice sounding names. I mean, who could be against a racial equity audit, right? Because
racists.
Yes, if you're against it, you're must be a racist and you must not believe in auditing companies.
Right.
So there's this word game.
It's a word game. It's using words that are really loaded and mean a lot to a lot of us, right? If I hear racism and race, my ears perk up. Yeah. It's not triggering, but my ears perk up, and I have a lot of inbuilt opinions on it that have been governed by 45 years as living as a brown man. And so, okay, it stands to reason that I'm going to pay attention. But on the surface, if you say racial equity audit, it also doesn't seem actually all that bad. It seems like reasonably benign, and that seems like an okay thing to do. It's just that most of us then stop at that point and move on.
Right.
But if you actually look at the rules, again, I would just say whenever political frameworks use the word, we need to create more equity, the outcomes are horrible. For example, look in healthcare. We have used this idea of healthcare equity, health equity, and we've misused it to such a degree. And all we see is that now the system is so perverted, it also doesn't work for the majority of people that have actually had the healthcare system work for it, right? Like at the top of the pecking order has always been white men, have always gotten the best care. And we've always measured our healthcare progress in America based on the longevity of men, white men, 78, 79, 80 years old. And then it started to degrade and people were curious what was happening. And underneath it all was just a bunch of power grabs. Under the realm of equity, we passed all these crazy laws. We basically didn't do anything to really create more accountability and a cost-based system. And here we are. So at some point, when the citizenry hears that word, you're going to have to put your thinking cap on and actually take the opposite view, which is, hold on, this is a really nice sounding word. It may not be what I think it is, and I got to pay attention, because more than if I didn't hear the word at all.
Anything you have on race, Friedberg, representing South Africans?
Fundamentally, I don't think this is about race, Jake. I think this is about power.
Power.
It's a power grab. It feels like a power grab. Also, it feels like a little bit of a grift. I know I had heard on the back channel that a lot of the people who are criticizing some big tech companies who were getting I'm not going to say who or under what moniker.
Sweater Karen?
Not Sweater Karen, but there was a group of people who were like attacking big
Sweater Karen. If she has an opinion on sweater, she must have an opinion on racial equity. Come on.
Okay, enough. Leave Sweater Karen has. The issue is they would complain and create these, basically, Twitter mobs. And then they'd say, oh, yeah, and hire us for $20,000. We'll come in and fix the problem for you. So they were creating the Twitter mob to then come in and solve the problem.
That's so brutal.
And I was like, oh, wow, that's
so brutal. That's so dirty.
No, I mean, these HR consultants who've written these books, like on D'Angelo or whatever on white fragility and how to be an anti-racist. I mean, they're all making a fortune in corporate fees, charging $20,000, $30,000 per gig. I mean, it is absolutely a racket.
I'm not a fan of equality of outcome. I'm more a fan of equality of opportunity. And I think many of these sorts of folks try and identify methods to drive equality of outcome. And it inhibits the competitive forces that cause the best person, the best idea, the best business, the best market model to win. And, I think it's easy to conflate the two when you don't really think through it, but it is certainly appropriate and reasonable to make sure that folks aren't discriminated against when they apply for a job. I don't think it's appropriate to then apply considerations of race and other factors when people are equally in the same job on who gets to have the chance at the bonus. It is the best performer that should have the chance at the bonus. And the same should be true in marketplaces, and the same should be true with business. And I think that what we're really seeing is this fundamental effort to try and generate equality in outcomes in lots of different manifestations. And we're seeing it more frequently and more severely than we've seen it historically. But it's not, I don't think it's the right model, and it's only going to lead to demise of marketplace dynamics and the things that cause forces for success and progress to win.
We mentioned this a couple of times. I'll just say it again. But we are about to have probably the most significant movement and questioning of equity versus equality. Because I think in the next month, maybe in the next 2 months, we're going to sort of see a pretty strict opinion on affirmative action. And if you talk to legal scholars, the overwhelming consensus is this is gone. And we're going to have to figure out how to rebuild what was a really important system that tried to give folks at least, getting to the starting line in the same way. But it's not really going to exist in the same way, shape, or form.
Speaking of Karens, Elizabeth Warren was bashing Elon over taxes. And Elon has a Twitter handle with some followers, and he responded. Elizabeth Warren says, let's change the rigged tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading off everyone else. Unfortunately for Elizabeth Warren, Elon Musk is pretty good at Twitter. He replied, and if you opened your eyes for 2 seconds, you would realize I pay more taxes than any American in history this year. He paid, which is, I guess, true. He paid more in taxes now than any American in history. As a side note, Elizabeth Warren has a $12 million net worth, and I saw that she paid no taxes on her equity holdings because she didn't sell anything, which is how the tax code works. And Elon then responded, don't spend it all at once. Oh, wait, you already did. And then, after the warm-up replies, Elon really, got in the zone and, like Steph Curry, just started draining half-court shots.
He ratioed her every single time.
Ratioed her with 50,000 replies. Yeah, you remind me of when I was a kid and my friend's angry mom would just randomly yell at everyone for no reason. Please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen. Elon also responded to Bernie Sanders' tweet today about climate change. Bernie Sanders said, when future generations ask us, what do we do to stop the climate crisis? How will we answer? And Elon said, and so great tweets. But to the bigger picture, did these people even know what's going on in the world?
No, they woke up on the wrong side of the tilt bed.
Yeah.
Because in like a 24-hour period, he was the Time Person of the Year, the FT Person of the Year, and they just went into super mega tilt mode.
And the Build Back Better Act got shelved, and then
Build Back
on
Better
$20 billion in sales.
And Well, I mean, I think we talked about this last week, but that bill is dead now. I mean, they pushed it to March to basically avoid a downvote. Nothing's going to happen. David, you're right.
Well,
I think this bill is dead.
We said last week, wouldn't it be hilarious if Elon said to kill it and then it got killed?
Well, I don't think that that's why the bill is dying. I think the real reason is that we now see a Fed posture, which is actually pretty reasonable, which actually says, oh, wait, there's way too much money in the system as it is.
Yeah.
The Fed 2 days ago basically said, we're going to see up to 3 rate hikes next year, probably 50 basis points each. So, it's basically acknowledging that these last, several years, we have printed way too much money and they're trying to fix the problem that they created. So that's, I think, the real reason. And then the CBO comes out and basically says, the Congressional Budget Office, and says, this thing is a white albatross that's going to cost way more than you guys think it will. And so it puts Biden in this very awkward situation, which is, on the one hand, he supports Powell. And he supports institutions, or has historically, like the CBO, but he effectively then has to push back on both of them all in one fell swoop to try to ram this bill down people's throats. And the support is, I think it's crumbling. And so, to save face, they basically said, well, we'll put a pin on this and we'll revisit it in March. But you guys know what's going to happen. In the next 3 months, there's going to be some other crisis. Most folks will forget, and it may just allow them to move on without having to actually deal with the potential of this thing getting defeated, which would just be, I think, cataclysmically bad for Democrats.
You were on CNBC today. I thought you said something really important where you said, hey, listen, maybe if we just calm things down for a year, we can, get through. I'm not sure what the exact quote was, but maybe you could unpack that sentiment you had on CNBC today, because I thought that was pretty important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with what Chamath said. This BBB bill was particularly anachronistic once the 6.8%, inflation print came out. In other words, we're in a hyperinflationary environment, and here comes this bill that the CBO says, if, over 10 years would cost $5 trillion, that's the last thing we need is more money printing when, we've got this inflationary fire out of control. So I think that is why the bill is being shelved, probably not to return. I think that the larger problem that we have in the markets is that there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty being created right now by Washington. We've had tremendous uncertainty over spending, over taxes, over interest rates. And the conversations that I'm having with friends who are investors in really every asset class, real estate, VC, crypto, the conversations are all the same. What's interest rates going to do? What's the macro picture going to be? I've never seen investors who should be focused on, hey, do I invest in this company or buy this building or whatever? Those aren't the conversations. Everyone's a macroeconomist now. And so we're also distracted by this. And so now the Fed a couple of days ago finally gave us clarity. I mean, what they basically said is they're going to accelerate the taper. They'll end quantitative easing at the end of Q1. And then we're basically going to get
Explain what that means to people who don't know what they've been purchasing and why.
Yeah, I mean, quantitative easing is kind of a weird term. What it means is that the Fed has been going into the bond market and buying bonds. I think basically mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. And they've been buying, I think, about $90 billion a month. They're going to cut that back to $60 billion a month. And that'll continue.
Just to explain it a little bit more, when you do that, what you're doing is you're giving somebody that owns those bonds money. Okay, so the Fed prints money. The government prints $100, takes that $100, steps into the market, and takes something from you. In this case, it's a bond, and gives you that freshly printed $100. What are you going to do? Well, you're probably going to go and spend that. You're going to buy other things, and that's the cycle of inflation that quantitative easing basically creates. And so, when you talk about tapering, what that means is slowing down the money printing machine and slowing down you stepping in the market and buying assets with money that you've created out of thin air.
And it's up to other people to buy those assets. If other people see value in them,
you then are forced to find the real market clearing price.
Yeah, those bonds are now on the Fed's balance sheet. And so there's a very interesting chart showing assets that are owned by the Fed. And it went up by something like $3 trillion during COVID. So that is the sort of monetary stimulus that's been pumped into the market over the last couple of years. Separately, we've had something like 6 or 7 trillion of just spending by the government. So, tremendous amount of.
And so that $3 trillion is not thrown away. So we're clear, We're going to get interest on that, and some number will default, some of them will get paid back. it's a way of stimulating the economy. But we now know after this stimmy checks and all the stimulus we did during the pandemic, we don't need to put more fire or oxygen or kerosene on what we got going in this economy. Correct, David?
Yeah. I mean, we should show that chart about how much the Fed's balance sheet has grown over the last couple of years. But, the argument I think would be the reason why they buy these assets is if they're buying bonds, it basically means that it keeps the yield down. Right? Because if they weren't the ones buying them, someone else would have to buy these bonds to keep the government funded. And they might demand a higher interest rate, a higher yield on the bonds. So this, by having the Fed come in and increase the demand for the government's debt, it means that the government can sell its debt more cheaply. Mm-hmm. So when they stop doing that, I think you can expect that, interest rates are going to need to rise in order to make our debt attractive to bond buyers.
The other thing, by the way, that the Fed did when they did that was it wasn't just government bonds that they were buying. They decided completely arbitrarily at one point to start buying certain corporate debt. So they own like Ford debt, GM debt,
commercial
United
paper,
Airlines.
that's called, yeah.
No. Commercial paper is sort of more very short-term duration, but like, how do you make a decision to start buying corporate bonds? It's like buying corporate equities. Do you buy Google versus Facebook? Do you have a view?
Who's the capital allocator making that decision?
So more importantly, who's setting the price?
Who's setting the price? So, these guys have been off the reservation for a long time. I think it's fair to say that they were forced into action without a playbook in the middle of a once in a lifetime, once a century pandemic. Fair enough. And I think they actually did a pretty reasonable job. But we just kept the tap on for so long. Yeah. And now we're like dealing with this stuff, trying to figure out how do we actually compensate. So the idea that we would add, knowing all of this. So it's one thing, I think, if Biden passed the bill 5 months ago, 6 months ago, because we didn't know any of this stuff. But to do it now, knowing that, I think that it's really hard. And I bet you that it's not just Manchin on the Democrats that are having a little bit of heartburn and second thoughts. It's probably more, because I suspect that they could have forced his hand really if it was just up to him. But I suspect there are other Democrats who are now teetering on the fence thinking, I don't want my legacy to be tied to this when we're printing 6, 7, 8% inflation for me to basically keep the money printing machine on, because it's insane.
This is like the Sopranos episode where he gave him he fronted the guy like 45 boxes of ziti, and you wake up and this guy can't pay the bill in the poker game. Where can we even afford to pay this back at some point?
Yeah, look, I think when March comes around and this bill is supposedly going to be brought back off the table, we're going to be into the election season in 2022. And I don't know that Democrats are going to want to defend this. I think there is a view on the Democratic side that if they deliver enough goodies to their base, then that will help them win elections. But I think what helps you win elections more than delivering goodies to your special interests is for the economy to be healthy.
Yeah.
And if they are sort of pressurizing this inflation situation, that is, I think, ultimately that could backfire. I think that's going to be worse for the economy. Frankly, I think Manchin's doing Biden a favor, because if the economy does grow by 4% next year, as the Fed is predicting it is, and if inflation comes down because you stop printing money the way they're doing, then, I think the Democrats will do better in the election if the economy is good. I mean, one of the reasons why they did so poorly, in the off-year election a month ago is that there's tremendous economic anxiety out there. People are seeing the inflation at the gas tank when they go to buy food. And, if that continues, I think they're going to do very poorly next year. I wanted to bring up this chart from Fred on total assets on the Fed balance sheet. I think it is really interesting to look at this thing. Because the Fed had about $1 trillion of assets until 2008. Okay. Then we had the financial crisis and they doubled it. That's when quantitative easing began. It went to $2 trillion. But then from roughly 2009 to about 2020, before COVID, somehow the balance sheet grew from 2 trillion to 4 trillion. So, and it had gone to 4.5 and they were starting to shed assets. So they were starting to get off drugs, but it was still from 2 to 4 trillion between this 2009 and 2020 period when supposedly we weren't in a crisis. So, they've continued this quantitative easing. Then COVID hits and the amount grows from 4 to 7 trillion just in 2020. And since then, it's gone from 7 to a little under 9 trillion, just in the last, Well, they
How
did
do we get these things off our books ever? I mean, these are 20-year bonds.
Eventually, they got to sell them. Well, either they're going to have to sell the assets,
or they come due.
Well, it's not like that. They basically are the Fed is the one who bought the government debt. So they're buying, call it a 10-year treasury. So yeah, I guess they could just wait till the bond gets paid off. But I guess they could do that. But now the Fed has an incentive not to let the assets get toxic, right? So if, the assets would get toxic if interest rates go up too high, that drives bond prices down. And now all the assets on their books are worth a lot less.
Yeah. This is like the point where we have to just call it and say, okay, you know what? Let's move on. Meaning in the sense that like we have to go to these root causes because more money is not going to fix what we're dealing with. So I just put something in the group chat and I just want to get your guys' reaction to it because when I saw it, it blew my mind. There was a study, okay, that was just published a few days ago and it said the following thing. Children born during the pandemic have experienced a catastrophic drop in cognitive development of 22 IQ points.
Yep, 22. I saw this. Yeah.
And when you look at it, the people that were the most affected were male children and children of lower socioeconomic families. But everybody was affected. Yet you see the amount of money that we're spending already. So adding more money to something is not going to make it better if what we're spending today is basically just getting flushed down the toilet. And these are the kinds of things that really matter. How do you allow an entire generation of kids to suffer? By the way, what does that show? That means that teachers actually are unbelievably important. So number one, they should get paid a lot more. Okay, let's just put it that way.
And there should be more of them and smaller class sizes.
Exactly. But if you have, these completely screwed up incentives between, the organizations, the unions that represent these teachers, and then the parents who have completely different incentives, and they basically fight to never be in classroom and to not really teach, this is the measurable outcome.
Yeah.
The IQ of our children. I mean,
their verbal ability, their executive function, their scores are going down.
How do they recover from that?
Be a lot of tutoring. It's going to be a lot of summer school. Yeah.
I mean,
Zoom's not going to do it.
I don't think more Fortnite and Roblox fixes this problem.
No, definitely not.
And I feel terrible because as a parent, that was my solution, right? I was struggling with the Zooms like every other parent. And then in the evenings, I was just so burnt and just feeling so beside myself in the middle of the pandemic. Whereas I had a no iPad rule for my kids, I broke down.
Yep. Everybody did. I mean, it's like you're home with your kids all day long. It's not how it's supposed to work.
But so the point is this is where the government should step in and actually say, okay, here, let me take leadership on this topic, right? And talk to the unions, fix whatever needs to be fixed, amp up the money into charter schools, do whatever you need to do, but please fix the problem. But randomly spending money to try to buy votes, I think people see through that. It just doesn't work.
And related to that, Omicron is spreading like crazy. New York City had an outbreak. Omicron.
There is no N.
Omicron, yes. I'll learn how to pronounce it when it's gone.
Omicron.
Is spreading like crazy in New York City and in the UK, amongst other places. The NBA and the NFL are seeing surges.
I've had a ton of people I know test positive this week. Have you guys had that? Family, friends? Crazy.
No.
It's insane how many people are. I know so many people
in New York City, East Coast.
Related, yeah. And a lot of people that don't have any symptoms.
So here's the chart of cases spiking, but hospitalizations and deaths are flat or going down in places where these outbreaks are occurring. The UK charts are even starker. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence. Everybody on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, young people in New York who went to SantaCon are saying they all got it. But if you look at this chart...
What is SantaCon?
SantaCon is the worst holiday of the year. It's a time when a bunch of young people dress as Santa Claus and get drunk. And you have 10,000 people.
Crawl.
It's a bar crawl.
This is sexy like Santa? Do you see this? You see how Monty's wearing his Santa outfit?
Oh, Monty Claus.
That's what goes on. Everyone wears their little Santa outfit and they go bar crawling.
So it's not sexy Santa.
Well, actually, I have a story about that. I was in San Francisco when I first moved up here.
You were sexy Santa?
No. I literally took my daughters out for pizza at Tony's in North Beach. And, I got my 3 daughters, and there's all these people walking around like, look, Dad, it's Santa Claus. Like a lot of them. And so there's 1,000 Santa Claus descend on North Beach. And I turn around and I kid you not, there are two old guys. I'm talking 70 years old. And they're wearing a Santa hat, Santa boots, and nothing in between. Literally buck naked on the streets of, yeah.
Bro, you're so demented. Okay, you're like this like unky perv. Like every time I get those text messages, I don't know what to think. Did you guys click on the Twitter link when Jason was like, guys, search for the Folsom Street Fair on Twitter? I can't unsee what I saw.
I was like, why is Folsom Street trending? I was like, I thought there was a terrorist attack.
Bro, that was so brutal. You can't send that shit around. Like, it's so brutal.
I was like, guys, don't click on. I was like, don't click on Folsom.
I was like, oh, this is a Twitter link. What is it about? Web 3.0?
Not exactly. The Folsom Street Fair, I'm going to go ahead and say, don't search for that. If you have kids around, it's a little bit intense. But anyway, the SantaCon was on Saturday, December 11th. And so here we are 5 days late, 4 or 5 days later, and this stuff hitting. If that's true, it almost perfectly mirrors the original outbreak after St. Paddy's Day in March 2020. And if you look on social media, all the City MD lines where people get tested are around the block. And 30 NBA players have entered the COVID protocol in the last 2 weeks. About 7% of the league. And we had a big question mark of, would this be more contagious? It obviously is. Check. Less deadly. It apparently is.
Some studies show as much as 40 times more infectious than Delta. Highly contagious, very much airborne. It's going everywhere. Like I said last time, if it does end up having low severity and low hospitalization rate and low death rate for vaccinated or vaccinated plus boosted populations, this could end up being a massive immunizing event, meaning like a lot of people will develop new antibodies and resistance. And, that could be a net good thing. But it's certainly the case that this is not a one strain, one shot and done pandemic. This is an endemic kind of circumstance. We're going to be in this for a while. And, the circumstances are one that may kind of require, an adaptation in terms of how we live and operate. And especially as it relates to things that are so important, like keeping businesses open and schools. I think we're going to use recent memory to guide future decision making, or at least politicians and, kind of lawmakers will. And they'll say, hey, this is what we did last time this happened. And we just saw this in California where they're like, last time, like we told everyone go into lockdown or wear masks indoors again. And we're seeing that behavior again. Certainly it may have an impact in terms of the spread, but this is highly contagious and it's going to spread everywhere. And I think there's just some adaptation that maybe is going to be needed here over the long run. There's no end. There's no end in sight.
There's no end in sight, but it is less deadly, and so it could be mass immunizing, and that has led people to think of this herd immunity potentially if there's not another variant. Sachs, if the NBA and the NFL are learning to live with COVID, and obviously when we were in Miami, there's no COVID, in Austin, there's no COVID. Yeah. Is everybody now just because it seems like the politicians now, whether it's in Europe, we're seeing the protests, and I think we'll see them here in the United States if this keeps up. Australia, obviously, having protests as well. The public has decided, I think, we're willing to have 1,000 people die a day or a certain number of people die today to get back to normal. So what do you think the end game here is going into 22?
I'll make a prediction for 2022. Okay. I will predict that even the blue areas of the country are going to have fatigue with all these COVID restrictions. And so even the blue state governors who are addicted to their state of emergencies and their restrictions and lockdowns and closures and mask mandates, even they are going to have to give them up in 2022 because the country is sick and tired of this. Peter Pham had a really good tweet just the other day. Maybe you guys can dig it up, where he had a friend visit him from Texas. And they've been living normally there since like July of 2020, roughly. Kids in school, occasionally someone gets sick, but they've been living normally. Okay. It's a manageable problem. And he couldn't believe, Peter's friend could not believe how they're living in LA, where still everyone's living in fear. We now have a new 1 month indoor mask mandate, thanks to, Governor Newsom, who still is ruling the state under a state of emergency. What good is that going to do? So I think, but I think that some of these blue areas, people are so petrified still of the virus. And I think it's just because of They're the ones who have been ingesting all this fear porn coming from the media. But I think it's going to break. I think finally this hysteria and panic will break. It'll crest over the blue parts of the country in 2022. They're already back to normal in the red parts, and especially Omicron. You can't stop this. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the salient point here.
Nothing
it's works. You're all going to get it.
Look, the little stupid Vax card that you have to show everywhere to get like popcorn at a movie theater, like in San Francisco, it doesn't do anything because vaccinated people can spread it too. So that doesn't do anything. And the mask mandate doesn't do anything. And so none of this stuff does anything except getting a vaccine reduces the severity of the illness
and
if you get it.
Zachs.
And losing weight.
And we can't have that conversation.
Those consequences are mainly on the person who decides to do it.
That's what we have to say is we just have to tell everybody, listen, lose weight, get in shape, eat healthy, get vaccinated, get back to life. That's it. That's the best you can do. I believe everybody's going to get it.
We're starting to see like a real divergence in American life where, and I think if we have lockdowns under Omicron, and really the big issue is school closures. If we go back to school closures in blue states and have more of the learning loss that Chamath was talking about, and I bet we do, whereas in red states, they're still out there learning normally and they're dealing with it, just like they deal with the outbreak of a flu season or cold season, but they're just managing it. We're going to be living in two different Americas. But I don't believe this is sustainable. I think eventually these governors who are holding on to their power and their restrictions are going to lose in 2022. The ones who haven't given it up are going to basically fall to a red wave in November 22. I think Newsom might be the only one left standing.
Any schools closed? I see everybody's canceling their Christmas parties. JP Morgan canceled that.
We're close.
Every Christmas party's been getting canceled. And I wonder if schools, teachers unions, they got to be having a meeting right now.
The teachers unions don't even acknowledge that learning loss exists.
This is why I decided to homeschool for the year of the pandemic, and I kept my homeschool teacher for a couple of hours a day, and my kids have done wonderfully, and it's great to have the ability to afford to be able to do that, but not everybody can have an after-school tutor.
Let me up-level this for a second. Okay, so maybe I'm spilling the beans on one of my predictions I'll make at the predictions episode we do. But first we had COVID, okay? Then we had the overreaction to COVID, both politically and economically. Economically, we pumped 10 trillion plus of spending and monetary and QE and all this sort of stuff. Politically, we had these restrictions, school closures, lockdowns, mandates. Okay. I think we're about to enter a new phase, which is the correction to the overreaction. And I think we're already in the correction. So the market's been correcting, growth stock's been correcting for the last 5 or 6 weeks. I now think that there was a bit of a political correction with Youngkin winning in Virginia. Remember that state swung 10 points relative to a year ago. And I think you'll see a further correction, both political and economic, in 2022. So we may not be completely past COVID, but I think we are going to be past this sort of overreaction to COVID.
What do you guys think about Succession?
Oh, no, I haven't seen it. Don't say anything. Jeremy Strong. Let's talk about the Jeremy Strong thing.
Jeremy Strong. Okay, Jeremy Strong is a weirdo, according to a New Yorker profile. And there's been a huge response to it. This profile came out.
Kendall Roy on Succession.
Kendall Roy, who is woke and dumb and ineffective as an executive. And obviously the show is modeled after Rupert Murdoch and Fox and the kids there, who are not dopey, actually. In the article, it hinted that most of Succession's co-workers dislike him due to his intensity and method acting rituals. He won't rehearse with anybody. He's in character all the time, like Daniel Day-Lewis. He won't get makeup whenever everybody else does because he doesn't want to reduce the energy and the buildup. The article notes there is a fine line that Strong walks between being a legendary method actor and just a completely awesome networker.
Wait, can I tell you why this story was interesting to me and why I sent this to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a guy who in many ways is a virtuoso. And the reason, he's a really good actor because I despise Kendall Roy on that show. And I was wondering, is this guy just a terrible actor or is he such a good actor that I hate them?
Yes.
I hate him. And that's why I was attracted to this article and in it or after it. So basically what happens is he's a virtuoso, and I'll come back to it in a second. these people at the New Yorker, who I guess are just jealous or want to write clickbait, try to destroy this guy. But what they didn't factor is that when they published this article, all these other actors would come to his defense and do it really publicly.
Yes, Anne Hathaway,
Jessica Chastain,
Aaron Sorkin wrote a letter.
Exactly, that Jessica Chastain published to Twitter because Aaron Sorkin doesn't have access to social media by design. Yeah. And in all of it, they said, this is the most incredible person we've seen. Aaron Sorkin says this guy is as good as Dustin Hoffman, which is like, that's as
good as it gets.
So why was it interesting to me? It's, you have these people who are grinding and trying to perfect their craft, be a virtuoso. You talked about Steph Curry grinding, try to perfect his craft. Just a little Steph Curry story as a tangent. He brought in this team where they basically started to map out all of the circumferences of the ring, of the net. And he practiced this summer, literally trying to get it perfectly in to create this very specific kind of swish. And he just kept shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting, not, all the time, but every day for some number of shots, trying to get the ball perfectly into the basket. That is a level of perfectionism. And that's being a virtuoso that none of us can really appreciate. But you see the output and we all love it.
He's already the GOAT and he's trying to outdo himself.
Here's a different guy in a completely different theater, in this case acting, trying to also be really legendary and putting himself through all kinds of stuff and still not lose himself in it, okay? So much so that all of these other people will really appreciate how amazing he is. And to me, what I don't like is that then these critics who don't do anything, who've never accomplished anything at all in their lives, feel so triggered that they have to judge him. It's one thing to not have that skill. I'll never be as good of an actor as Jeremy Strong. I'll never be as good of a basketball player as Steph. But I don't hate these people for that. I'm so happy that people like this exist. But there's a strain of people that exist. And then who also have a platform.
Yeah, I was about to connect the dots for you. Is like look at how the politicians feel the same way about private market
politicians, social media,
who decide to try to destroy people.
Yeah.
So instead, what these people do is they take a shortcut. They're the critics. They're not in the arena. Okay, the folks in the arena are booking wins and losses constantly. But you have this strain of impotent critic. That doesn't actually know how to do for themselves. And they somehow have a platform. And then what they end up doing is cutting corners. And then some subset of those start to cheat. Cue David.
Well, yeah, it's a story that Congress back in 2012 passed a bill called the Stock Act to prohibit members of Congress from trading on their insider knowledge based on legislative actions they're about to take. And it's been widely flouted by dozens of, representatives and senators. And the problem is there's no punishment. It's something like a $200 fine or something like that gets waived in most of these cases. So it's completely hypocritical because these politicians like Senator Karen, they're constantly demonizing and attacking other people to make themselves look better. And then here they are, they've got dirty hands. And they asked Pelosi, they said to Pelosi, well, don't you think that members of Congress should be prohibited from trading stocks, right? Because their actions have such a huge consequence on them. And Pelosi said, no, it's a free market. It's a free market. We should be free to do that. It's like, I don't remember that being a defense every time you've wanted to regulate some, industry that you didn't think.
Doesn't the president have to divest when they take the presidential office? Isn't that a thing?
Divest, or they put their assets in a blind trust.
Yeah, so they're blind. So why would senators, Congress, people be any different than the president?
It's absurd that elected officials should be able to engage in insider trading. It makes no sense.
The Fed actually had this issue as well. Two folks on the Federal Reserve Board resigned, and then Powell issued a whole bunch of, I think, new laws or regulations inside the Fed to try to fix it. And the same issue occurs with federal judges. And there are federal judges that are consistently trading in the equities of the companies that are in front of them. And so how can you adjudicate a case? There was one judge that had 130 plus trading conflicts, 130 plus. And he is the one that's there where AT&T or Facebook or Google has an issue. I mean, how can you actually assume that these folks are being impartial if that's the case? And there are no consequences for this. And yet, if you're, again, going back to where we started, somebody in the arena trying to do something, you just got to think to yourself, like, you have critics that are bashing you. You have folks that are basically flouting the law because they can. And then you put these two together and it's like, it's kind of depressing, to be honest with you. You start to lose a little bit of faith in the system.
Let's be honest. These politicians are grifters. That's it. And full stop. They're just grifting. And except for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, they should just buy the companies they hate. Why aren't they buying Amazon and Tesla? They would be total proponents of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk if they did.
Yeah, in fairness to Warren, I've seen her tweet that she supports the banning of the insider trading by congressional representatives, but I don't exactly see her fighting for it, as hard as she's denouncing people like Elon. So, look, it's characteristic of elected officials that they, they see the splinter, in somebody, in somebody else's eye, but not the log in their own or something like that. Isn't that the expression? But, who's taking advantage of this issue is Blake Masters, who's running for the Senate in Arizona, just tweeted about that this would be the first thing he would fix if he gets elected, which is to ban insider trading by elected officials. And I think it's remarkable that, politicians as shrewd as Nancy Pelosi are just ceding this issue to Republicans. I don't know why Republicans wouldn't make this a major plank of their platform for 2022.
David, Nancy Pelosi is, I think, the third or fourth richest person in Congress. Her husband is a very sophisticated private equity investor. There are these meme stocks that follow Nancy Pelosi's stock trading account or pretend to, that were, recently, by the way, banned by Twitter, right?
Yeah. That was weird. Yeah.
Protecting her
effectively. So, she has an incentive to not. Her seat of power is not necessarily the salary that she earns by being House leader, but it's by translating that in a bunch of different ways. And one way, apparently, it turns out, is being an active equity investor in the market.
It's unbelievable that's allowed. I don't know how this isn't just like an A+ fantastic issue for Republicans. They should make it an absolute plank of their platform.
Well, here we go. Florida Republican Brian Mast was late in disclosing a purchase of up to $100,000 in stock in an aerospace company, which had just testified before a committee, he said. Kentucky Republican Rand Paul was 16 months late disclosing that his wife bought stock in a pharma company that manufactures an antiviral COVID-19 treatment.
Right.
Nevada Democrat Susie Lee failed to probably disclose more than 200 trades.
Yeah,
worth as much as $3 million. This is bonkers.
Yeah, just to be clear, the violations have been on both sides of the aisle. I'm not at all trying to say that Republicans are better on this than Democrats.
No, this is good. This is good bipartisan cooperation.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. This is the political class in Washington engaging in bad behavior. But the difference is this, which is that Pelosi, the only leader of a party I've heard defend this is Pelosi. And I think this is a fantastic issue for outsider candidates, really on both sides, to run on.
Well, this is also something that Biden can take because Biden has never tried to do this stuff.
Oh my God, Biden's got so many shady dealings and conflicts.
Are you talking about his kid selling paintings to China?
There's a lot of rich Bidens out there. Apparently, he's got a rich brother. He's got a Hunter who's been paid a lot of money.
Maybe that's true. But Joe Biden has been really down the middle. Come on, be fair.
Hunter's brilliant. He's selling paintings.
Yeah, but why are they buying Hunter Biden paintings for $500,000?
Well, he's a great artist. Why do people buy? I don't know if you saw Melania's coming out with NFTs today. So she's Melania's everybody's securing the bag now. And by the way, the presidential grift is always the best. Just as a case in point, Trump's SPAC is worth over $2 billion. And BuzzFeed, which makes $360 million a year, and I think has $200 million in cash, is worth like $600.
He's not in office.
That's misstated, Jason. Trump's SPAC, his shares that he's going to be receiving are worth close to $20 billion.
What?
$20 billion.
But he's not in office anymore, so I'm not sure.
The shares that he's going to receive.
Oh, in the future.
What you're counting is the market cap of the cash and trust, the value of the shares that are already public in the SPAC.
Right.
The value of the Trump entity is going to be closer to $20 billion.
Oh, is that right? Wow, that's even crazier with no revenue. These poor media people.
The SEC, apparently the DOJ sent a bunch of inquiries on this asking for background on the transaction because there's no business, there's no contracts, there's no employees. It's just a whole
But by the way,
idea.
Just to make sure that everybody understands this is a bipartisan thing as well. The ultimate bag securers, the Obamas, got, I think, $50 million plus each for their book deals. And they got supposedly high 8 figures, like 50, 60, 70, $80 million from Netflix.
Sorry, hold on a second. When you call them bag securities, I was really triggered there for a second. So am I supposed to take that offensively that you're saying Michelle Obama and Barack Obama secured the bag? Secured the bag
is a term for getting the money. The Obamas are doing it. The Clintons did it, and the Trumps are doing it. It's a thing. Secure the bag.
But Jason, we're not against everybody not being able to make money. The issue is trading on your office in a way that where you are trading on your insider information that your office has given you.
Sure, but I mean,
if you're selling influence, if you sell a book, hold on a second. If you sell a book when you're out of office, is that really a problem? Is that on the
I wanted to point out the Netflix one. What was Netflix's existential crisis for the 8 years Obama was in office? Anybody remember? Nobody remembers? Net neutrality.
Nobody cares.
Would they have to pay Verizon? What was the Obama's position on net neutrality? They were for net neutrality. Netflix stock went up 40, 50x under Obama. It could all be a coincidence. I'm just saying.
What the fuck?
So you're saying it's a disguised lobbying payment to Obama?
I think it's like.
Are you serious?
I think it's like
you are out of your mind.
Listen, the Clintons were doing speaking gigs for Goldman Sachs at $500,000.
This is kind of my cue to go to dinner now.
Okay, so here's the MRA.
The main way that Winston Churchill supported himself was writing books. I think it's okay for politicians to write books, because ultimately the public buys them, and that's how they make money.
What about when the book is $50 million and the normal price would be 10? That's the problem.
Well, I mean, I guess you might have a point. If the advance was so in excess of the expected sales that it raises a question of what the real motive is for the payment. About. But is that what happened? Is that
nobody
true?
gets paid a $50 million advance. Nobody gets an 8-figure deal who's never made a documentary before. No, I mean, if the book sold 5 million copies, it still wouldn't be worth it. Let's move on to mRNA so we keep our Friedberg factor high.
I'm so ready to go to dinner. Rick Thompson gave me a wonderful bottle of wine, by the way. I'm going to go drink it tonight.
I'm super tilted that you like, it's like, I mean,
what? Because I criticized the Obamas?
Yeah, I can't deal with it.
You can't deal with it. It's a no-fly zone for you?
I'm super tilted. I mean, this is worse than Sweater Karen.
What about the Clintons? Can I go after their 500K speaking gigs from Goldman Sachs?
Yeah.
That's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Just don't touch the Obamas.
But I mean, Jason, are you doing exactly what Senator Karen did to Elon, which is by virtue of the fact that they're making money, that you are now imputing evil motives to it?
No, it's just a disproportionate to what they should get paid.
By your assessment, their assessment's the same about Elon.
I'd pay a lot of money for Michelle Obama to do much of anything. I think she's just a
eight-figure deal for
badass.
Somebody who's never made a film for Netflix. I don't think it makes sense.
You said the same thing about Rivian. I don't know, man. You're projecting a little bit.
I totally agree. If this is on the second floor, I'd jump out the window right now.
Yeah, you let winners be winners,
I think we should differentiate between insider trading, bad and should not be allowed, influence peddling, bad, should not be allowed, and somebody out of office making money.
Their influence?
Exactly.
Well, no, not monetizing their influence. And if they did that, that's a problem.
Getting paid for services is fine.
Getting paid to sell tickets or books, that's what it is, that's fine.
Unless it's disproportionate to the reality. Let's put it
fine.
Put a pin in it.
I agree with
mRNA.
No. Jason, say you like the Obamas or
I love the Obamas. I would vote Obama in for a third term.
Okay.
Didn't you get paid a $50,000 speaking fee recently to speak at a conference?
Yes, he did.
I get paid all the time, but I'm worth that.
Overpaid. You're worth $8.50 in a fucking Subway sandwich.
You're worth like $2,500.
I just got paid $15,000 to do a 50-minute
Who are you trying to
speaking
influence? Who are they paying you to influence, J. Cal?
I mean, honestly, J. Cal.
I have no influence.
Jason, you're worth like 30% less than a high-end escort. Okay, no offense.
Man, that's
$600.
I don't know.
$700.
There's a high-end influence. You're saying what's 30% more than 50? You're saying it's like 80 grand. And that's, I don't know, 60, 70 grand. I didn't realize that. All right. Talk to us about the mRNA news for cancer, Friedberg, that came out this past week.
So I think the article that you guys sent around was one related to an oncology treatment that uses mRNA tech. But I think it's what I wanted to what I thought would be interesting to talk about for a second is just zooming out on mRNA technology as a whole, which, has been theorized for, the potential of it's been talked about for 50 years. If we talk about real quick what RNA is, remember your DNA, your genetic code, defines the printing of proteins in your cells. And so every 3 letters of DNA is an amino acid. A bunch of amino acids in a row form a protein, and that protein has some function in your body. The way that the DNA gets translated into protein is through these mRNA snippets. So a little snippet of RNA is a copy of DNA, which floats over from the DNA strand, and it floats into what's called the ribosome, and the ribosome is the protein printer in the cell. And there's lots of ribosomes, and there's lots of RNA floating around all the time, and it's being copied over. So some chemical triggers the expression of that gene, of that sequence of DNA into RNA, that then turns into protein. And so a chemical induces the protein. Then the protein does something interesting, and the protein has a function in your body. And some of those proteins in human body can, do bad things, and some of them can do good things. And so the idea has always been that we can actually use proteins as a way to modulate our health and modulate disease. For example, creating a protein that can attach to cancer cells and signal immune cells to come and kill those cancer cells, as an example. And some people have genetic problems where their DNA prints the wrong protein, and then that protein is malformed or causes some harm to your health. And so the idea for RNA technology has always been that instead of having DNA be the source of truth for the proteins that get expressed in your body, can we stick RNA directly into cells and use that RNA to trigger the production of proteins that can do specific things in your body? And remember, the biggest segment of the pharma market, or a huge segment of the pharma market, is what's called biologic drugs, which are largely antibodies, which are a type of protein that have some specific function. But very many of these proteins are hard to get into the body and get them into the right place and get them to do the things we want them to do. So it would be a lot easier if we could get RNA into the right cells to get those cells to make the right protein to do that thing that we want them to do. So everything from cancer treatment to genetic diseases, and there's RNA interference, and there's RNA, or what are called oligonucleotides, that can be used to block specific bad proteins from being produced in your cells. Or is kind of another kind of course of treatment. So making proteins that we think are therapeutic and blocking the production of bad proteins are kind of the mainstay of this idea behind RNA technology. And Moderna was started to pursue this effort out of Flagship Pioneering, which is an incubation shop in Boston. And they really kind of struggled for years to find the right footing of what's the right business model and the right product. And the FDA kind of struggled with approving this stuff. And then boom, COVID hit. And when COVID hit, it was like, holy crap, let's accelerate this RNA technology, use it for vaccines, which had been in development for years. And the protein that's being produced is the same protein you find on the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which triggers an immune response and builds up your immunity to that virus. And now the floodgates are open. And this is incredible because the frontiers in RNA over the next decade could change the course of how we treat disease and change the course of outcomes for many diseases, from genetic diseases all the way through to cancers. And so we're starting to see those floodgates open. I think there's now a handful of these, RNA interference products that have been approved by the FDA. And we're now starting to see many more of these cancer and immunotherapy drugs start to get approved as RNA therapies. But it really, I think, was lit by the breakthrough with COVID and everyone kind of seeing the benefit of this and the lack of side effects. And we've now got I think a validation in the market and acceptance from consumers that this technology could transform the industry in the same way that Genentech transformed the pharma industry with biologic drugs in the 80s and 90s. So it's super exciting. And, we can do updates regularly on our show if you guys want to talk about more of the cool stuff that's coming out. But man, this is going to transform how medicine is delivered and the potential of things that we can kind of treat.
Let me ask you a question. If we looked at the total number of deaths from COVID and then the potential deaths avoided or early deaths or more life days added, however you want to do it, from mRNA and the impact on cancer over the next, say, 30 or 40 years, in other words, the impact it would have on the people living today who live through COVID, do you think net we'll see that the prevention of cancers through this new technology could actually make, be basically the silver lining to what happened during COVID?
It's a good question. Let me give you the counterpoint. In the late 90s, there was a gene editing clinical trial that took place. And they tried to, and a patient, and they delivered the gene editing technology via virus. And so the virus goes in, it spreads around, and it has this molecule that would edit the gene, and it was for a genetic disease. And a patient that they gave it to, a young guy, got this virus and he actually died from it. And they shut down all clinical trials for years. And it was like, boom, that's the end. So there are a lot of scientists, a lot of doctors have argued for years that particular case caused so many lives to be lost because we lost years of progress in being able to run clinical trials during that time and get drugs to market that could treat people. And you're right, maybe the opposite has happened here, that while these clinical trials may have taken years and years and years to get through in a normal setting, perhaps the pandemic was the accelerant we needed to get more of these to market faster, and millions of people whose lives would have been lost or would be lost otherwise to cancer and other genetic diseases and so on over the years to come will be saved because these therapies will get to market faster. And so, it's a great point. And maybe, I don't know what the calculus is between the lives lost in the pandemic versus the lives gained via these treatments coming to market faster, but it's certainly a good way to think about
it. The way to look at it, we can look at the days of life lost, right? And if we could predict how long somebody's going to live, and the extension of life, I think we can come out of this ahead. Finally, on our docket, London Breed calls for better policing in San Francisco after this insane surge in crime. Here's the video.
And it's time that the reign of criminals who are destroying our city, it is time for it to come to an end. And it comes to an end when we take the steps to be more aggressive with law enforcement, more aggressive with the changes in our policies, and less tolerant of all the bullshit that has destroyed our city. We are going to turn this around. This is a city that has a population of less than 1 million people with an over $12 billion budget. The residents of this city have been extremely generous in providing us with the resources we need to make a difference. And now the priorities we need to make must be to protect them, must be to turn things around in their neighborhoods. When you are in a room full of people, I would say probably anywhere between 90 and 95% of folks could raise their hand and say that either their car has been broken into, or they've been a victim in some capacity or another. That is not okay. That is not acceptable.
Sachs, I thought crime was down and that everything was great and that we were going to defund the police. What is happening here? What's the big turnaround?
Well, it's exactly what I was saying. Well, first of all, I loved it. I love what she said. It's exactly what I've been saying for the last year. And it's really great to hear her say the same types of things. I started this campaign back in January after New Year's Eve. You had those two women get killed by a repeat offender who was released by Chesa Boudin. And then as I dug into it, I saw that he was doing this all the time as part of his agenda of decarceration. So, and a year later, like we've talked about throughout this whole time, I mean, the city is totally degenerated into some sort of dystopian Gotham-like city. This did feel like the beginning of a Batman movie. I mean, it was a strong statement. I thought it was great. This is just the beginning of what needs to be done. I predict that London Breed is going to eventually butt heads with Chesa Boudin. There is no way that he will support this agenda of fixing the city. She wants to increase the police presence. So like you said, she is going to refund the police, not defund the police. Chesa Boudin is, the only people he's passionate about prosecuting are police officers.
Yeah.
So we have a huge problem that the police department we have too few of them. We're understaffed.
Who would take that job?
It's not just because of budget. It's also because they're demoralized and they've got this prosecutor. By the way, there was a case just recently where a repeat offender bashed a vodka bottle over the head of a cop, and Chesa just announced that he's getting sent to mental health diversion instead of being prosecuted. I want to
What? You can attack a cop and not go to jail in the city of San Francisco?
Yes. This is why the cops are demoralized. So in order for London Breed to fix the problem, she is going, and I think she's on the right track here. He's got to go. So here's my prediction. On February 15th, they are having the recall election for the education board. And I predict that board, at least 2 of the 3 are going to be recalled. The parents are sick and tired of it. Yeah. They are going to be out. I think that's going to embolden London Breed to then support the recall of Chesa Boudin in the June election. And I think between
she gets to pick his replacement when it recalls.
Yes, exactly. So
that's what she's doing. She basically flipped. She was quiet up until this point. And
the
now
progressive left are slowly eating themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is self-preservation, right, Chamath? I mean, if she didn't make a change here, she's going to be out of office too. She'll get recalled.
It's not self-preservation. They're realizing that these policies don't work. Moral absolutism didn't work on the left or the right. These guys have tried in a small scale to do what a certain fraction of the Democratic Party has been trying to do at a national level. It doesn't work. Overspending, under-policing, under-educating, it doesn't do anything.
I think there's going to be a schism. I think it started after the Youngkin victory in Virginia, and I think it's going to accelerate throughout for the next year, and especially after the red wave in November 2022. There's going to be a schism between liberal pragmatists and these extreme radical progressives. I think London Breed represents, she's obviously very liberal, but I think she's pragmatic. I think she wants to find solutions that work. Whereas Chesa Boudin is a radical ideologue who will never change, no matter how much evidence is presented to him that his policies don't work and are backfiring.
I think there's a simple formula. The person who gets you into the mess is likely not the right person to get you out of the mess. And
well said.
You know, she talks about San Francisco having a $12 billion a year budget. Can you guys imagine if she was the CEO of a tech company that had $12 billion a year in OpEx and she ran the business into the ground? Would the board say, go ahead, turn it around? Absolutely not. The board would step in, and in this case, the board is the citizens of San Francisco, and they would say, let's find the right person to turn this thing around. And while she stood up and said the right things, and maybe it would echo, and I think, you know, even if it echoes within David Sachs's heart, I'm sure it's echoing in a lot of hearts of more liberal San Franciscans. But I think that the apathy, being asleep at the wheel, and allowing the disorganization across the departments within that city is ultimately her responsibility. And I don't think that any amount of, you know, verbiage or action she might take at this point justifies the damage she has caused while being the leader of that city. And I think that and by the way, I think you'll see, to Sachs's point earlier, I think you'll see the same response across the nation, where folks feel like the leaders that got them into the mess that they're in locally, in cities and elsewhere around this country, are going to vote those folks out of office because they want to change. And it's the same reason we saw folks vote Trump into office, and the same reason we saw folks vote Trump out of office. The more you want to see a change, the more you're going to make a change with your political electorate.
So right. Friedberg is so right. There is a phenomenal Twitter account. His name is Rob Henderson. And he's like a PhD student right now. I think he's in Europe on scholarship. You know, this guy has an incredible background, which you can talk about later. But Rob Henderson has this thing which I love, which is that, you know, a lot of this stuff is born out of what he calls luxury beliefs, right? Like defunding the police is a luxury belief. If you're like this rich middle class cloistered person that can sit behind a gate, have armed security, yada yada yada, because you're not living in the ghetto where the byproduct of defunding the police are borne out, or decarceration are borne out. Or, you know, if you send your kid to a private school, you can completely be for all these crazy radical ideas like defunding, you know, advanced placement, defunding the gifted program, because if your kid's smart, you'll just pay for a tutor and you can do whatever you want. Those luxury beliefs exist more in the progressive left in such a small cohort of people than in any other political class that we have in America. And when they get a hold of power, they've now had the right to show whether those luxury beliefs can actually work. The data says it doesn't. Okay?
Let's go with competence. I mean, how about that? Like, just keep people safe and make the education system.
These luxury beliefs belong in sociology textbooks, in anthropological articles. They're better off in like where beatniks smoke pot and talk about it over a glass of wine.
Let me clean up something. So look, I have no special desire to defend London Breed. I'm sure there are many.
I knew that hit a nerve.
No, look, I'm sure there are many better
Sachs,
people.
Are you wearing a London Breed brand sweater? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that London Breed?
Tom Ford.
Tom Ford. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Tom Ford.
Look, I'm sure there are better mayors, but I think we have to sort of temper what you said based on the realities of politics in San Francisco, which are this. We actually have a weak mayor. The mayor can't do anything without a vote, without the vote of the Board of Supervisors. Right. And the soups are controlled right now by a bunch of crazies who are basically allies. Dean Preston and Matt Haney and Hillary Rodin, who are allies of Chesa Boudin. Okay. So London Breed, I think, wants to do some good things. I think that she is more pragmatic than these ideologues. I think that she could have been more aggressive and more outspoken about standing up to them. However, earlier. Okay. But I think she is now doing the right thing in terms of the speech she just gave, basically calling for refunding the police, and we're sick of the bullshit and we're going to take action. Those are the right things to be saying right now. She did the right thing in terms of supporting the recall of this school board. And what I'm saying is, let's give her a chance to see if she does come out 100%, in favor 100%. Of the recall of Chesa Boudin, because I think that's where it's headed. And if she gets on board with that, and she shows she's pragmatic, she may actually survive this red wave that's coming.
Fundraiser if she gets out.
It's happening all around the country, right? We saw Bill de Blasio, who was the first real progressive leftist elected to a major city. He completely ran New York City into the ground. Now Eric Adams is going to go clean it up, right? We had Glenn Youngkin, who basically ran a centrist campaign, take over Virginia. It's over.
It's over, Johnny.
Let's call it. It's over. Game centrism, over. Pragmatism. Enough of these extreme polar opposites, okay?
Right.
Let Antifa and the Proud Boys go and make love to each other in some deserted island. It's over. It's done. Let's stop talking about it. That was the funniest thing
I heard. Somebody said to me, like, Proud Boys and what's the other group? Oath Keepers or something? This woman who's gay said, she's like, oh, it was Rachel Maddow. She's like, I think these are like gay activist groups, aren't they? Like Proud Boys? It sounds like a gay activist group.
I think we're seeing the correction of the overreaction the pandemic caused, what Neil Ferguson calls pandemic politics, that the pandemic bred a strain of radical politics that we saw all over the country. And I think
on both sides.
And I think the country is going to come out of that.
Did you see these idiots go to Cheesecake Factory and do a sit-in without their masks on? And that's their form of protest, is like, we're going to go into the Cheesecake Factory.
Who are you talking about?
There was a Cheesecake Factory protest. And now it's going national with people who are anti-mask, anti-vax. They don't want to have to show their cards or wear a mask when they walk to their seat. So they're literally doing sit-ins at Cheesecake Factory. And I was like, I would protest going to a Cheesecake Factory. I'm not going to protest in a Cheesecake Factory.
Well, some people aren't on a diet like you, Jake, and they enjoy cheesecake.
Well, where are you at? What's the number? Sachs, just give us the number. What's your weight today?
I'm around 170.
I'm 174. So I'm coming right up behind you. You hear the steps? You hear the steps?
Saxy, I'm going to tell you, bro, I love your sweater. I'm going to drive to the city, come to the mausoleum, and make love to you with that sweater on.
Oh, my God. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week on the All In Podcast. Love you, besties. Love you, Sax.
Love you, Sax.
Back at you. We'll let your winners ride.
Rain Man David Sax.
And instead, we open source it to the fans, and they've just gone crazy with it.
Love you, besties. The Queen of Quinoa. Besties are back.
Gold 13. That is my dog taking a notice in your driveway.
Oh, man.
My haberdasher will meet me at Clinton.
We should all just get a room and just have one big, huge orgy, because they're all just useless. It's like this sexual tension that they just need to release somehow.
Wet your beak. Wet your beak.
Wet your beak.
We need to get merch.
Besties are back.
I'm going all in.